So you've purchased or you've downloaded a Helix or HX Stomp or PodGo preset from Worship Tutorials. First of all,
congratulations, you made a wise choice.
Thank you, Bradford. This video is going to go through the process of installing the patch onto your hardware and go through some of the very common troubleshooting things that we see over and over and over again. Okay, so when you check out and that you finish the order, two things will happen. You will have an opportunity to download the patch, actually three opportunities. The first thing is you see this checkout page. This is the order complete page. It has the details of your order, and if you scroll down, it has the download. This right here will download the file. And if you're on an iOS device and you make the purchase, you're gonna have to go to a computer to download the file and get it onto your hardware, which brings up the other options you have to download. You will also receive an email from Worship Tutorials with the download links. These links do not expire. Keep that email because you can refer to it later. And in fact, if we release updates for the patches, the original download link will always link to the most recent update that we have made. So if you buy a patch and we put out an update a year later or 2 years later, it happens. You can download the updated file from that original patch. We also give you those updates for free via email down the road as well. So you can download it from the order complete page. You can download it from the email that you receive. If you chose to create an account or if you have an account on the website, you can find the download in the My Account section, and there's a download section of your account page on the website. One thing to note, ordering something from the site does not automatically create you an account. You are able to check out as a guest. There is an option, anytime you check out, there is an option to create an account. It's a checkbox, and then you'll pick a username and a password. That is how you create an account. You can also go to the My Account page on the site and create an account from there, and then we can link your past purchases to your account for you as well. The download comes as a .zip file. That means it is a compressed file that includes other folders and files inside of it. If you have any kind of modern operating system, this is again on a desktop computer or a laptop, not on a mobile device. Any modern operating system, pretty much all you got to do is double click on it and it will open. Every patch comes with a couple folders and a README document. This is what it looks like. The README file is there for you to read. It includes all kinds of information about the patch, how to install it, how it's set up, what the features are as far as snapshots, effects, layouts, that kind of thing. Then you have a folder called patch files. Inside of that folder will be the patches for the hardware. In this case, there are three. There is a HB, there's one that's labeled IR, that would be the SC patch. Again, this is all referenced in the README. And then there's one called AC33WT, that just uses stock cabs. Again, all of this info in the README file. And then for our Helix and Stomp patches, PodGo patches, you'll have a folder called IRs, impulse responses. These are the IR cabs we have included. We make them ourselves, premium IR cabs. We feel that they're a really great way to customize a patch and make it sound exactly how you like. You're going to import the IR files and the patch files into HX Edit. So the way that you do this is you connect your hardware to your computer via USB. So anything you buy from Line 6 that uses a software element comes with a USB cable. Plug it into your computer and connect using the HX Edit app. HX Edit looks like this. This is a blank patch. So what we are going to do is import the patch into our hardware unit, in this case a Helix, with HX Edit. So I've got the folder. There's a couple ways you can do this. First of all, this isn't a tutorial on HX Edit, but I'm just going to give you a brief overview. There are these sections, these columns on the left side. One's called presets, one is called IRs, one is called favorites. Okay, we'll talk about all of these in this video. So the first thing you want to do is import the presets or the patches into the presets column. Now I'm on just one of my set lists. You can put this anywhere you want. So I'm going to pull up the file location. Again, it's just right here on my computer. I'm going to grab the 3 presets. I'm gonna actually pull them in a different order. So all you have to do is drag and drop. I'm gonna pull it into 14D. Yes, I want to overwrite the patch that's there that says nothing. Okay, so we get an error. First error, we'll come back to it in a little bit. It says the IRs are not found, or not found in the positions that they were saved in the patch. We'll talk about that here in a bit. First thing let's do is just pull in the patch. The next thing, I'm going to pull in the HB patch. And I'm not going to get that error in the HB patch. And then you can rename this if you want. Let's just rename it to SC just to make it easier to realize what's happening. Okay, so now I've got the 2 patches that I want, the SC and the HB version, on the Helix because it's connected. The next thing we'll do is pull in our impulse responses. So you go to the IR column. I've got 2 spots here. My impulse response column is pretty full because we make a lot of impulse responses here. So I've tested a lot of these out. I've got some old tone junkie stuff down here as well that I've been using, but this patch comes with 2 IRs. I'm gonna pull both of them into just 2 free spots in the software. So I'm going to grab them, and again, you can just drag and drop into those spots. So now we've got the IRs that came with this patch in spot 106 and 107. It does not matter what slot you import the IRs into. Helix will be able to recall them based on their name. And the other thing is, if you've purchased a patch from us that uses, say, the blue AC 160, that's a Biodynamic M160 on the Vox combo with 2 AC blue, or with 2 Alnico blue speakers. It's right over there, actually. If you buy another patch or download another patch from us that uses the same IR, you don't need to import it again. It's the same IR. But in this case, if it's the first time, you want to import all the IRs. So we've got the 160 and the SR25, those are the impulse responses. Now the README file will tell you, if you notice here, there are 2 impulse response blocks. The README file, right now they've loaded the incorrect IRs. Remember we saw that error message. The README file is going to tell you which one goes where, top or bottom. So let's just pop open this README file, and here it says the 160 is on the top, the SR25 is on the bottom. Again, let me stress this point. If you run into an issue with a patch, or if you have a question, read the README first. It probably has the answer. Okay, so the 160 goes on top. So all we have to do in this case is navigate to this IR block. This IR block, if it doesn't have anything loaded into it, is going to sound really bad. We'll talk about that here in a bit. It needs to not only exist in the patch, but load the impulse response. So the 160 was on the top. So here it was, remember 106, 107. So 160 on top, SR25 was 107 on the bottom, right there. AC Blue 212, SR25. So now our patch has the correct IRs loaded into it and in the correct spot. So all we have to do now is save it, okay? And then you can do the same thing for the humbucker patch. Interestingly enough, the humbucker patch came in and it mapped them it maps them now because it sees we didn't have to save anything. Helix is looking for those IRs by name. If you rename the IRs, you'll have to reselect them and resave. So now the patch is set. We've imported the patch, we've imported the IRs, and we've put the IRs in the correct location. So we're ready to play. If you have questions about how you should set your Helix up, Bradford and I did a full video going through every single option in the settings, in the global settings of the Helix, when you would want to use different settings in different situations, as far as like input pad, output type, whether it's mic or line or instrument level, all of that information linked below. If you want to take this a step further and talk about best practices for tweaking this patch to make it your own, Bradford has made a video where he goes through everything we would do if we pick up a guitar. Are we going to use the SC version? Are we going to use the HB version? Oh, this guitar has hot output humbuckers. What do? This guitar has, maybe it's cremas and they're lower output humbuckers. Now what do we do? How do we tweak the patch? Like, I play it and it's way too much gain. we can fix that. It's pretty simple. Link below for all that stuff where we go through best practices. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to talk about troubleshooting. Now, as we get into the troubleshooting section of this video, the first thing I want to address is the most common problem that we experience in our support ticketing system for Helix or Stomp or Podgo patches. The dreaded this preset contains unrecognized models error. I'm going to replicate it because I know how to make it happen and I know how to fix it. So this is our Vento patch. It's currently, is this the most recent patch we've released, Bradford? It is. It's interesting. I have to ask the question because we have like multiple patches.
Backlogs.
Yeah, we have multiple patches ready to release that we're excited about. But this is the most recent one, and it uses effects and amp models that were released in the most recent version of the Line 6 firmware update. So this came out firmware 3.15. So I have updated my Helix to firmware 3.15. I'm current, okay? I'm going to pull in this Vento patch, and I'm going to show you what happens. Are you sure you want to overwrite the highlighted presets? Yes. HX Edit was unable to import this preset because it contains unrecognized models. Oh no. So you get this error and you think, I've updated my Helix. I'm on the latest firmware. What the heck is going on? Why can't I import? The reason is because HX Edit is not updated. Now, if you haven't updated your Helix to the most recent firmware, then it's because nothing is updated. So you need to update your Helix to the latest firmware. But HX Edit also has to be updated. Line 6 has improved this process because the updates now go through HX Edit and it forces you to update HX Edit first and then update Helix. But it is possible to update your Helix without HX Edit. I have an old version of HX Edit here, and I'm going to show you the biggest reason why this is confusing. A lot of times at the bottom of HX Edit where it says what hardware you're connected to, like it'll say Helix floor, and on many cases it will show you a firmware number down here. That firmware, or it'll show you a number, let's say, the most recent update before this was 3.11. It would say Helix floor 3.11. The assumption you might make is that my HX Edit is on version 3.11. That is not what that is telling you. That if you have a number right down here, it is showing you the firmware version of your hardware. The way that you see what version of HX Edit you're using is you go to the File menu of HX Edit, and you go about. So you know that they always have like about. On a Mac it's about. I think on Windows it's the same. So File, About, or About HX Edit. You pull that up and it will show you right here. Helix Floor is version 3.15. HX Edit is 3.11. I wish with all of my heart that Line 6 would put the version of HX Edit very plainly somewhere on HX Edit without having to go into a menu to see it. But what this is saying is HX Edit is not up to date. So you need to update HX Edit. The bottom line is if you see unrecognized models, it means that HX Edit needs to be updated. So we've loaded the patch onto the Helix and we get some errors. How do we fix those? So the first error is, I'm going to put it on the screen because we saw it earlier when we imported this patch. You get this error that says the IRs associated with whatever are not found. All that means is Helix knows that this IR is supposed to be the WT Blue AC212160 and it doesn't see it in your IR list. All that means is you need to import the IR into the IR column, and if it's already imported, doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means the IR needs to be imported and then it needs to be selected. So again, we come to the IR block. We say it came in and it was empty. That's a problem. You just go in and remember it was 106 is where we put it. And we just select the appropriate IR. Again, that's labeled in the README file. Select it, save the patch, done. You will never see that error ever again. So another issue you might run into regarding impulse responses is they aren't loaded in the patch. If you pull the patch in and you pull the impulse responses in and you think you're set and you play the patch and it sounds like static, gross, nasty mess, it most likely means that there are no impulse responses selected in the IR blocks. This is a point of confusion, and it confused me at first when we started messing with this. Just because the impulse responses are on the Helix and the IR blocks are in the patch does not mean that the IRs themselves are actually loaded. So that nasty sound is the sound of an amp head not going through a cabinet. So that's what an amp sounds like if you would just plug it into a desk. First of all, you'd risk blowing stuff up, but that's what it would sound like. You don't blow stuff up in the Helix, but you get the nasty sound. So all you need to do is go to the IR block and double check and make sure that the impulse responses that are supposed to be with this patch or that you want to experiment with are selected. What you'll see in that situation is this will just say empty. I actually don't have an empty IR slot in my Helix. Line 6, I wish they would give us set lists for IRs just like they do for presets. Anyway, you would see it say empty, and that means it's going to sound gross. There are other errors that you will see. One that comes in a lot is too many DSP. What does that say, Bradford? Too many DSP parallel paths or something like that. If you see something that has to do with, Bradford's going, I don't know, because I don't try to put Helix patches on my Stomp. That's what it's doing. So if you see an error that says something like, that has to do with DSP, what it's telling you is the hardware version that you're trying to import the patch to doesn't have enough DSP to load the patch. Almost always what that means is you're trying to load a Helix patch onto an HX Stomp or an HX Stomp XL. Because the Stomp and the XL have the same amount of DSP, so the same patches work for both of those. You can import Helix patches onto Stomp if they don't use too much DSP. All of our patches, or I should say none of our patches for Helix will work with Stomp because we put too much juice into them. You need the Stomp version of that patch. And if that happens to you, if you download it or if you purchased a Helix patch for your Stomp by mistake, just reach out to us.
You're out of luck.
No, you're not. Reach out to us.
The instructions on the website made it clear.
Bradford doesn't have a heart, but I do. Reach out to us at support@worshiptutorials.com and Bradford will send you the right. Actually, the easiest thing for us to do would just give you a refund and then you could purchase it. But we'll work it out. We'll get you the right patch. You're not out of luck, okay? So that is a common thing that you run into. Okay, there's one other issue that we see from time to time. It's going away because we've kind of remedied this at this point, but it still exists in some patches. We'll have a person email us saying the patch has no volume, has no output. I play, nothing happens. What is often happening in that situation is the volume block itself is set at 0 and saved in the 0 position. So I've just replicated it here on this patch. Every once in a while when we build a patch, we'll pull the volume down as we do other things in the room just so there's not level coming out of the, like especially if we're on a high gain setting, in the room, we'll pull the volume back and then we'll save it with the volume set at the 0 position. And then that's the patch that we'll deliver. And that's a mistake. We don't mean to do that. Like the majority of our patches have the volume set at 100%. But there's a couple ways around this. There is a global setting, which we talk about in the video about all the global settings, where the volume is always, the volume of the volume block is always at wherever the pedal is on your board, on your Helix, or you can set it so that it's per preset. And this is nice because if you have like a swells patch, you can have the volume pedal set at all the way back when you pull the patch up. And that way, if you're playing something, it doesn't just come out like this. So there are different use cases, and we talk about those in that settings video. But if you're experiencing no output and your volume is up, like right after you load the patch, most likely it's the volume is all the way down in the patch, and all you have to do is just move the volume pedal. As soon as you move the pedal, this will latch to it. And then you can just push it all the way forward, resave the patch, and you're good to go. I personally like to have that global setting where the volume of the the volume in the patch is all globally mapped to wherever the expression pedal is, and then I just use the expression pedal like a volume pedal on a board. So wherever it is what my Helix is doing. So hopefully this clears up any questions that you might have regarding how to import patches to your HX hardware from line 6 and how to troubleshoot common issues that you have as well. Again, links below for those settings videos. These are sort of best practices, how to tailor the hardware and the patch to your specific setup. So we'll have that video link below about settings, and the video Bradford did as well about how to maximize these patches for you. Make them yours for your guitars. If you have any other issues though, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you go anywhere on the Worship Tutorials website, you will see on the bottom right side, down at the bottom, a little support bubble. So we have a knowledge base there with many common issues that people run into with our products and how to troubleshoot them. And you can also reach out to us. You can send us an email through that, or you can send an email to support@worshiptutorials.com. We will get you set up and squared away. Thank you so much for downloading and purchasing patches and products from us. We so much appreciate it. We have a lot more cool stuff coming. We'll see you in the next one.